afternoon, and welcome to this episode of Aki News, where we tell it as it is, unfiltered and uncensored. With us today is Laura Loomer. She's an investigative journalist and a congressional candidate in Florida. Hello, Laura.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely a pleasure. I titled this video, Laura Loomer versus CAIR/Hamas. Let's start from here. In 2019, you filed a lawsuit against CAIR, which me and you and majority of my audience are aware is the front for Hamas in America. Tell us about that lawsuit first.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. So in 2019, as you said, I did file a lawsuit in Florida against Twitter and CAIR. And the reason I sued them is because there was a report that came out in the Wall Street Journal in 2019 that explained how CAIR lobbied Twitter to ban me. And a woman by the name of Zara Bilhu, who's an admitted jihadist, an anti-Semite, she is an executive director for CAIR, and she admitted in an interview with the Wall Street Journal that CAIR aggressively lobbied Twitter and met with their executives to get me banned because I was criticizing and exposing Ilhan Omar, who CAIR, of course, has endorsed and financially supported. And so I sued them for tortious interference because when I was banned from Twitter, I lost 90% of my income as an investigative reporter, since posting on Twitter was my main platform and source of revenue, since people could contribute to me online. And ultimately, this was a case that was carried out for about 2 years, and then it was dismissed after we appealed. And then it was, the appeal was upheld by the 11th Circuit. And now CAIR has tried to get attorney's fees out of me. And just last week, a few days ago, a federal magistrate ruled in favor of CAIR. And now they're ordering me to pay $125,000 in legal fees to CAIR, which you said is Hamas. So essentially, the American judiciary is ordering a Jewish American citizen to fund Islamic terrorism.
Well, hold on. Before we get to the judgment that you received or the order you received, you said they dismissed your case. How is that possible? Well, I can say that legally there is such a position, there is such a job and a career as social media influencer or a public figure. That's right. What you are. And when they ban you on Twitter, which had your majority of followers, automatically you have grounds to win this lawsuit. Why would they dismiss your suit?
Well, unfortunately, we have judges in this country who don't seem to understand the function of social media, and they're not really up to date with how social media is now playing out in the digital public sphere, and how, especially in an age of COVID where people are being ordered to work from home, right? How now the internet is not only a source of revenue for people, but also one of the primary ways that people can work or continue to work. And so the judge said that it was nonsensical for me, that was the term he actually used, nonsensical, to argue that I could have a business relationship with Twitter. But how is it nonsensical if Twitter allows for people to have business accounts? You can have a business account on social media. How is it nonsensical if Twitter allows for people to pay for advertising? How is that nonsensical? Right? I mean, there are lots of people on the left and the right who utilize social media to make a living, right?
Exactly.
Even CAIR uses social media to raise money. So for them to say that it's nonsensical, right, it just goes to show you that there's really a subpar understanding among the judiciary in this country of how social media works. They didn't dispute, right, the basis of whether CAIR lobbied Twitter to ban me. Right, we already proved that because there was an admission by the Wall Street Journal. And then what CAIR did when this happened is they created this lie. They partnered with a group called Right Wing Watch, which is basically an offshoot of the SPLC, another radical left-wing organization. And they spread this lie that it was a prank, right? That I somehow fell for a prank, and that they convinced me on a prank phone call that CAIR lobbied Twitter to ban me. But that made no sense at all, because they said that this happened after the Wall Street Journal already reported what they reported. And like I said, when the Wall Street Journal contacted me, they were asking me if I was aware of what they were just confirming, right? Because this woman, Zara Bilhu, who was the executive director, had already told the Wall Street Journal that they lobbied Twitter to ban me. So I never told the Wall Street Journal anything. I never told the Wall Street Journal that CAIR lobbied Twitter to ban me, because Wall Street Journal came to me and asked me if I was aware of this, right? So Wall Street Journal found out, and then they had alerted me while they were publishing their piece. So after they had already written it. So this claim makes no sense whatsoever, that CAIR and Right Wing Watch are trying to push out that I somehow fell for a prank. That makes no sense. And how is it a prank if the woman, in her own words, the CAIR employee, is admitting that CAIR lobbied Twitter to ban me?
Yeah, and I can't help but to think, what would have happened, Laura, if the scenario was reversed? If this wasn't anti-Semitism and it was Islamophobia, what
Right.
if the person who was banned was a Muslim activist? Can you imagine?
Right. Yeah, like if there was a Jewish organization or so that went to Twitter and asked them to ban, a Muslim. But the fact of the matter is, it's not, regardless of whether it's Jewish or Muslim, the biggest issue here is that CAIR has been designated as an Islamic terrorist organization, right? And so that's the problem here, is that Twitter met with a terrorist organization and banned, at their request, an American citizen who, openly speaks out about them.
True, and now it gets worse and troubling and almost as scary. Now let's go to the next step, which now you have been ordered by an American judge as an American citizen to pay $125,000 or so to CAIR in lawyer fees. Translation: this judge is flat out asking you to fund terrorism. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, basically, I'm being ordered to fund terrorism. And not only am I, an American citizen, but I'm also Jewish. And as you said, CAIR is Hamas. And in the Hamas charter, they explicitly call for the murder of Jews and the eradication of Israel. Right. And so why would I want to fund terrorism and also the killing of my own people? I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. And I think that, the question needs to be asked: why is the judge asking an American citizen to commit treason? It's a violation of U.S. law to aid and abet terrorist organizations. And Hamas is recognized by the United States government as being a designated terrorist organization. Federal judges already found in the Holy Land Foundation terrorism trial that CAIR was funding Hamas and is tied to the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah, and also countries such as UAE already have designated CAIR as a Muslim Brotherhood terrorist group, and CAIR is also the unindicted co-conspirator of Holy Land Foundation, and CAIR has been running literally for years, suing Americans to get money for their foundation. That's what they do. So I'm gonna ask the simple question, Laura. I have actually received messages from my followers of what now? What do you do now, Laura?
Well, the funniest part about this whole situation is that they basically want to collect a judgment that doesn't exist. And so, CAIR's executives are on Twitter. I have the screenshots. My lawyers have the screenshots of their employees and executive directors celebrating the fact that they caused me to lose 90% of my income when they aggressively worked to get me banned. There are screenshots of their employees talking about how happy they are that Chase Bank shut down my online access to my bank account a couple years ago, and basically calling for all Islamophobes to have the same fate as me. And so they know that I have no money. And so I don't, they're not going to be getting a dime from me. I don't have the money. I don't have the money. And I'm also not going to commit treason against my own country.
I was just about to say, Laura, I've been following you for many years, and Laura Loomer, I know you're not the type who's going to just bend over, hand over the money and reward them for being the terrorist group that they are. So that part, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't do it.
Right. One, I don't have the money. And two, even if I did have the money, I'm not funding an Islamic terrorist organization. And, you know, I don't see how any patriotic American could argue against me. I'm not going to fund Islamic terrorism. I'm not going to give money to an organization that has been found by federal judges to be supporting terrorism. So CAIR is not going to be getting a dime from me.
Well, good for you. At least my personal opinion. Good for you. Don't do it. But I know you're still fighting them. I know you're not giving up. And I personally am signed up to your newsletter, so I do get your emails. So quickly tell my audience where they go to get the news, get your updates, and if they can possibly support your continuous fight against CAIR.
Well, people can go to loomer.com, and that's where they can support my work financially or sign up to get my emails and you know, and follow this situation. And look, you know, whether it's CAIR, Twitter, Facebook, Google, or Apple, I'm not stopping my fights against these people anytime soon. And you know, I think it's very telling that here I am. I'm not a wealthy individual by any means whatsoever. I'm one person, and I'm taking on CAIR. You know, Jewish organizations, Republican organizations, Christian organizations, they need to be filing lawsuits against CAIR as well, because the Muslim Brotherhood and their alliance with the communists, right, this red-green axis, is one of the biggest threats to our country, and it's undermining our nation. And they're working hand in hand with the progressives and the radical left to eliminate our Constitution and impose Sharia law. And so I'm also running for Congress. People can support my congressional campaign at lauraloomerforcongress.com. And I'm running in Florida. And an interesting fact about CAIR is their largest branch is actually located in Florida. And, you know, I like to say that I'm going to get the last laugh on this. CAIR might think that they're going to get $125,000 out of me, but you can take it to the bank that when I win my congressional race in 2022, and when Republicans take back the House, one of the first things I'm going to do is draft legislation to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, which means that since federal judges found that CAIR is tied to the Muslim Brotherhood, their organization will be shut down, and people like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib can be tried with treason and removed from Congress for supporting a Muslim Brotherhood organization, which will then be recognized as a terrorist organization by our government.
Yeah, just the sentences coming out of your mouth, and I can't stop smiling. Yes, I can't help to also think that this is also one of the plans by CAIR to stop you from running, because we both know they are terrified of informed candidates who might win and stand up to Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar on the floor and expose them for trying to infiltrate our Congress by their blasphemy in Sharia law.
Exactly. And they already know that I'm a threat because they can't cancel me anymore. Right. And so the good news is my business is separate from my campaign entity. And so, you know, I don't have any money in my business. I don't have any money now. I don't own anything. So CAIR's not going to get a dime from me, and they won't get a dime from my campaign because the lawsuit wasn't against my congressional campaign. So so they're not going to get anything out of me. You know, this is just something that they're using to continue their fundraising so that they can gin up support from their jihadi base, but they're not getting a dime from me.
Well, I'll agree with everything you said, and I would strongly suggest everybody who's watching this video on any platform, do make sure to go on both websites of Loomer. It's Loomered with a D at the end, loomered.com. That's where you can get updates on her fight against CAIR and this ridiculously, let's just say for lack of a better term, uninformed judge who's trying to get Loomer to pay $125,000 to CAIR and go support her campaign. She is trying to take a seat from a very horrible Democrat in Florida. Loomer, give us your congressional website one more time.
It's just lauraloomerforcongress.com.
Perfect. lauraloomerforcongress.com. Get behind Laura Loomer. As I said, I've been following her activities. She's the type who's going to show up. She showed up to Rashida Tlaib's campaign, and she showed up to Ilhan Omar's, and she's going to continue showing up. Laura, thank you so much for everything you do, and thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And to our audience, make sure to share this video everywhere. Check out Laura Loomer's websites, get behind her. Do not for a second let CAIR think that we are not united on this fight against Sharia. With that being said, stay safe and goodbye.